So, we just arrived on site, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace a condensing fan motor. And it's a little bit fun because we're replacing a condensing fan motor on a super old Coleman unit. So here's the unit. As you can see, it's mounted from the bottom. I'm guessing just using those bolts that go through the motor. And it looks like the best way to actually get at that is going to be to take apart this whole entire shroud, pull that off the top, and then probably there's just tabs that rest on the coil. So I removed all the screws, and that's all there is to it. Those screws just hook right into the guard around the coil, and this fan is just sitting in here on these like feet things. So let's see. Yep, just uses the nuts on the motor to mount it. Look how this insulation on the motor is starting to, like, on the wires, I mean, is starting to kind of rot away. So this piece of paper, it's taped on the side of the motor, is important, especially for if you're doing like a rescue motor. This tells you what each wire is. So we've got a brown and a striped brown. These are what hook onto our 5 microfarad 370 volt capacitor. And then we just have our line voltage, which is our white wire for one leg and our black wire for the other leg. And then we can get counterclockwise rotation if we have the yellow and the orange hooked up to each other in the 2 loops. Or we can put yellow to orange and orange to yellow, and that will give us clockwise rotation, lead end of the motor. So this is great. This motor has extra long studs on the bottom, so this should mount in there just fine. Now, it's important to note which orientation the motor will be in. A lot of the time the motor's this way and the blade's on the bottom. In this case, the motor's going to be this way. So you'll notice these 2 holes on here. These holes are for draining condensation out of the motor. And if you're going to mount it this way, you need to take these little rubber plugs out and move them to the top. So the motor's going to be like this. So we don't want rainwater and stuff getting in the top of the motor. And the moisture that does collect in the motor needs to be able to drain out on the bottom. So move these plugs right away to whichever side is going to be facing up or into the elements. Just like that. Now our motor is prepared to go in. Ooh. Hopefully we can get this off of here without too much difficulty. Looks like it's a double set screw style. Gotta make sure you get the right one. Oh wow. Okay, that is amazing. That was really nice and loose. That never happens, seems like. Clearly it doesn't never happen because it just happened. Nice. Both of those were relatively loose. I'm very impressed. Now, before you start pulling it up and out, I recommend making sure that the shaft is pretty clean. Sometimes you have to take a little bit of sandpaper and sand it. I think this one looks pretty good. You can also use a wire brush. I've got this really old 3-in-1 oil stuff. I'll usually just put a bit of that on there. I hadn't considered this problem. The fact that since this motor is not mounted to the unit, I can't really just pull up on it. What I've found to be very useful is to get on the flat with a crescent wrench like that. That kind of breaks them loose. And then you can kind of work them off. Sweet, there it is. Always remember to keep it in the same orientation that you took it off. It's usually really hard to put it on wrong because it would be more difficult to get at the screws. but still worth mentioning. So they had leg 1, leg 2, short out the capacitor, clip that wire. The ground wire we're going to cut inside here so we can just wire nut it. Just little nuts that we got to take off here. This side's free. And boom, that side's free. Now we'll just tighten each one a little bit. We'll cut and strip these back. And I think we might have to go grab a couple of different wire connectors. So capacitors always have a microfarad reading and a voltage reading. The motor said on that tag that it needs to be a 5 microfarad, 370 volt. So we can use this one for this system. If the motor said 440 volt and this said 370 volt, then we could not use this one with it because the voltage is not high enough. But if this exceeded the voltage name on the motor, then it would be fine, again, to use it. So these wires just push on. That one was real stiff. This contactor only breaks one set of points. Loosen this terminal and add in this black wire. The other side. Wow, that is a tight screw. There it is. We don't need this wire going up to the other capacitor because they were just using it as a terminal block. Alright, just like that, wiring is complete. So get the screws, set screws so that they're in line with the flat of the shaft. You want to try to match the height of the previous motor. Now we're going to get those wires tied so that they can't get in the way. But before that, it's always good to make sure that it's going to be spinning the right direction. So let's refer to our paper again. Yellow to yellow and orange to orange is going to be counterclockwise rotation lead end. So this is the shaft end. That's the lead end. So as we're looking at it from the lead end, it's going to spin counterclockwise. So it's going to spin this direction, which is the wrong way. So I'm glad we checked that because otherwise we would have had to take that shroud back off. So you see there's a yellow loop and an orange loop. And what we're going to do is unplug the orange from the orange and then the yellow from the yellow. And then we're going to switch them. So we're going to plug the yellow into the orange. And the orange to the yellow. Now we just got to get all this stuff tied down out of the way. So this air conditioner is set up on a house that has a load management box on it. And this box is owned by the utilities. They use it to keep the energy costs down by decreasing how much stuff is running at peak hours. So they'll shut off people's air conditioners for a while to decrease the load and manage blocks of energy better. It makes it so the power is a little bit cheaper for everyone. But if you take the disconnect out and the power is disconnected from this box, then it will disconnect the 24 volts going to the contactor for 7 minutes. So that's what we're waiting on right now, is the load management delay. So there it is, it just kicked on. Nice thing about the load management is it gives you just enough time to clean up your mess. So I got all the garbage picked up and was just carrying it back to the vehicle when this thing came on. Yeah, it's pushing a lot of air. That's how it's definitely pulling it the right way. Yeah, feels real good. It's starting to sweat. I'm sure it's R22. Let's double check though. Yep, 4.35 pounds of R22. So let's grab the gauges, check it. Based on how this appears to be cooling off, I bet it's gonna be okay. So I was like, oh no, the VSAT's 5 degrees, that's too cold. But it's actually degrees Celsius. So if we change it back to PSI and degrees Fahrenheit, then we get 41. So it's okay. I just got confused there. Anyway, hope that you found this helpful. Talk to you later.